So now that we're in the final months of 2024, and as we approach 2025, the very year, by the way, that Disney CEO Bob Iger views as a very important one ahead of his plans to step down as the CEO by some point in 2026, that's the overall endgame right now, as the Disney executives, the board of directors, are still finding it quite difficult to find a proper replacement for Bob Iger for the time being, but there's also a lot of things going on behind closed doors when it comes down to one of their most failed divisions out there, Lucasfilm. Now, we already know that the Rey movie, the Rey Skywalker film, whatever you want to call it, New Jedi Order, has been put on hold after it lost its main writer, Stephen Knight, and there's also a lot of revisions being applied to this film, most likely now not arriving in 2026, and likely set to get cancelled. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new, and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So one thing about Bob Iger, and I know I've said this so many times, is that this man loves to lie to both the customers and to the shareholders, and this all has a lot to do with the fact that he is getting funded by the top three shareholders. You got BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. This needs to be put out there because a lot of people out there don't know that they are the top three contributors to the Walt Disney Company. But what's interesting about this has a lot more to do with what Bob Iger has been up to when it comes to damage control and double down mode, when it comes down to the overall Star Wars, brand, the property, if you will, and Lucasfilm as a studio, as one of their divisions that they are really trying to patch together as we speak after the Acolyte ratings disaster. The numbers don't lie from the Nielsen ratings reports, by the way, based on that actual show. But let's get into the actual, meat of the overall issue that's going on right now with Lucasfilm. Now, given that the Disney executives are right-sizing the company under Bob Iger's demands for all of their divisions, one monumental development going on currently has more to do with the Disney CEO Bob Iger and what he had to deliver after all of the cancellations and projects being put on hold or thrown into limbo mode behind the scenes as a direct result of the Acolyte, and how Iger blames what he calls a boycott on the Star Wars franchise failing. Iger delivered the following: "As CEO, it is my number one priority to address our core customer base in regards to the ongoing unnecessary narrative that the Walt Disney Company holds any kind of an ideology or agenda on our hands when it pertains to one of our most valuable divisions, Lucasfilm. What we at the Disney Company find to be the most offensive to both of our customer base and our shareholders are a loud and vocal portion of our customers attempting to convince that our company engages in any kind of a cultural war, and I can firmly say and put forward that this is all false and part of an attempt from a small group of supporters that refuse to engage in the products that we deliver revolving around the Star Wars brand and property. As CEO, it is indeed my responsibility to remain transparent to not just our loyal base, but also newcomers to our Disney Plus platform and our upcoming Star Wars theatrical features, that some vocal customers of ours claim are part of an agenda, all because of our support for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Our support for that, and I can't stress this enough, has nothing to do with any kind of an agenda and nothing more than our move to reach toward a wider global audience for all of our products, especially with our Star Wars brand. Many have been questioning me about the current status of our upcoming Star Wars 2026 feature film starring Daisy Ridley, and I am unwilling to comment on that progress related to that film as we are going through some adjustments. We will be providing updates on that in the near future." So guys, let me just stop here quick for one moment before I move on about what Bob Iger is going on about. He is unwilling to comment about the Rey movie because we all know it's in trouble. It's actually in deep trouble because of what's been going on between Stephen Knight and Kathleen Kennedy. We talked about this, by the way, 3, maybe 4 days ago, give or take, and it's been basically big trouble at Little Lucasfilm, as I like to call it. There's a lot of issues going on over at the headquarters there, and a lot of it has to do with creative differences. Others, of course, have to do with the fact that you got director Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy having a very big problem with one of the side characters not getting the supposed recognition that she believes she deserves. But that's just a very, small portion of the problems. We can talk about this all day. Focusing on Bob Iger, he is obviously getting very defensive and very panicky about the fact that this is only going to balloon in a very negative manner as the months roll by, alright? We know that the Rey movie, they wanted to get this thing out in 2026. They desperately wanted 2 Star Wars movies by 2026, and now they're not going to get that. Now, yes, you have the Mandalorian and Grogu film arriving, I believe it's in May of 26, but they wanted the Rey movie to follow up with a December release date. That most likely now is not going to happen at all. And if they do delay this movie, in which they most likely will, they're not going to see this movie until some point in 2027. But like I said, let's move on further from that. He goes on to continue, to those engaging in this false narrative that the Walt Disney Company promotes any kind of an ideology in Star Wars films, television, books, and or other forms of material is nothing more than a response from unsatisfied customers that were not happy with our product for supporting DEI. We view DEI as our #1 priority and more important than the stories that we are being put out. That with diversity, equity, and inclusion, it allows us as a company to remain fair and loyal to everybody and to provide an opportunity to all around the globe to either become a part of our projects or to help create them. The inflammatory comments in regards to that support are not the types of customers we want supporting our beliefs here at the Disney Company and what is planned to be used in all of our upcoming films and television programs. We push for everyone to keep an open mind and to disregard any inflammatory negative comments that hold no valid criticism. So there you have it again, Bob Iger saying that there's no valid criticism out there, especially the ones that are opposed to DEI, which by the way is an agenda in and of itself. You cannot deny that. You can't really twist things around. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, as long as you are focusing on that over a proper story, it's 110% an agenda, With diversity, if you're having a script being written and it's organically and naturally happening in the process, then yeah, diversity works. That's okay and fine and all. But everything to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion, the whole Disney ideology and focusing on that as their priority over creating something entertaining, something very much valuable to the general public and to a specific and/or catered fan base, you're not really doing anything to yourself as a favor and to the general public as a favor. And that's where Bob Iger gets things wrong. Now look, we already know that Bob Iger says the most illogical things on earth. This is a guy that says, yeah, DEI is not an agenda at all, but focusing on, anything related to that has nothing to do with the culture war, etc., etc. I mean, he keeps saying these things, very robotic, corporate speak, if you will, and it's not going to change at any point in time. In fact, whoever replaces him, and I said this before, you're probably going to get somebody worse. Whether it's he or she, it's going to be a worse replacement. But overall, I would like to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.